Okay.
And hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And we got a little bit of a different format today. We're going to do the first 20 minutes in Spanish with Nat. Then we're going to read out all the political and all the cultural headlines from the weekend and from today. Then we're going to talk a couple cultural stories on both YouTube and Rumble. But eventually we're going to go over to Rumble and talk all the geopolitics, so we don't have to censor ourselves or worry about getting a strike or our channel banned.
Yes.
So let's go for 15 minutes with you in Spanish.
Sure. Tengo muchas cosas que manejar por aquí, entonces ténganos paciencia, por favor. También acaba de salir un video que grabamos sobre Blancanieves y el desastre que ha sido Toda desde que empezó, básicamente, con esta niña Rachel Zegler. Entonces vayan a verlo, compártanlo si les gustó, si les pareció chistoso, informativo, etc. Buenas noches, bienvenidos a todos. Estoy viendo si sirve esta cosa o no, pero pues como estamos, como explicó Guy, vamos a empezar el en vivo ahorita en español, obviamente, aquí en YouTube. Vamos a hablar de algunas historias en inglés más bien culturales y luego nos vamos a ir a Rumble. Si no saben qué es Rumble, abajo está el link, y todas las historias más pesadas de geopolítica, donde normalmente nos tenemos que censurar, las vamos a hablar en completo en Rumble. Entonces, si les interesa seguir con el en vivo, entonces váyanse para allá después o ahorita, cuando quieran. El link está ahí abajo. Y bueno, por ahora hablaré sobre la marcha del 8M, por lo menos en la Ciudad de México y bueno, en todas partes del mundo también. No les contamos, pero fuimos a la marcha 8M y hoy no voy a hablar muchísimo sobre esto porque estamos recopilando todo el video y todo lo que sacamos mientras estuvimos en la marcha. Todas las imágenes, videos, etcétera. No estuvo tan alocada, por lo menos nosotros estuvimos desde las 10:30 de la mañana hasta como las 5:30 y luego nos regresamos porque estábamos entre achicharrados, muertos, deshidratados, etcétera. Entonces, ya contaré cómo nos fue en la marcha. Yo creo que mañana íbamos a hacer un video y aquí sí, pues fue un poco error nuestro también. No logramos realmente entrevistar a nadie. Nadie se quería acercar cada vez que nosotros les preguntábamos si les podíamos hacer algunas preguntas. Nos veían con cara fea y nos decían que no. Tratamos muchísimo, estuvimos siguiendo la marcha, estuvimos también estáticos, tratando de ver si alguien quería hablar. Pero en parte creo que uno de los problemas fue que pues yo iba con mi camarógrafo, Guy, y pues no le puse peluca ni lo maquillé, entonces pues se veía como un güey gigante ahí en medio de la marcha. Entonces no sé si creo un poco de desconfianza. Ya veremos cómo le haremos para el próximo año, porque sí me encantaría ir a entrevistar, hacer preguntas pues digamos que incómodas y ver pues cómo nos va la próxima vez, o algún otro evento feminista también. Vamos a seguir tratando. Perdón que no pudimos realmente sacar las entrevistas, tenemos horas y horas de video, entonces ahorita estamos viendo qué se queda y qué no, para mañana poner imágenes y hablar sobre eso. Pero como les decía, por lo menos yo no la vi tan llena la marcha, o sea, estuvo, yo creo que hacía mucho calor, porque todas sí estaban brinque y gritando y pegándole a las cosas y con martillos y etcétera. Algunas, muy pocas la verdad, pero en general como que creo que sí hacía demasiado calor y había demasiado sol, que las que sí lograron llegar al Zócalo, que nosotros también llegamos al Zócalo, pues más bien como que se sentaron y se pusieron a tomar agua y a hacer como un picnic con los vendedores ambulantes que habían ahí. Y pues sí, había un escenario y habían algunas gritando, pero tampoco tan estrambótico como normalmente. Y les digo, nos fuimos a las 5:30, luego yo medio seguí viendo qué estaba pasando, pero pues tampoco hubieron así como muchísimas noticias, no. Entonces creo que fue un poco más calmado. Sí hubieron algunos destrozos, sí vimos vidrios rotos y entradas de edificios también que les habían pegado con martillos. De hecho, nosotros íbamos hacia atrás de pues el colectivo, diré pues Femi Antifa, todas las que iban vestidas de negro con pasamontañas y sus martillos y así gritando y pintarrajeando por todos lados. También sí vimos varias pintas de estatuas y edificios y pues etcétera, como siempre pasa, pero nada pues demasiado fuera de lo esperado, digamos. Entonces, mañana hablaré mucho más a fondo sobre la marcha y dar las imágenes que nosotros sacamos y cómo nos fue, pero pues por ahora eso es lo que tengo que decir. Aquí así se vivió la marcha 8M en 2025 en CDMX. Mujer, escucha, esta es tu lucha. Y pues sí fueron muchas, pero les digo que los colectivos iban como bastante separados unos de los otros, entonces como que pasaba una tanda y luego había un espacio y como que no había nadie y luego pasaba otra tanda, esto como a las 2:30, 1, 2 de la tarde, que estábamos como entre Reforma y ya la entrada hacia, no me acuerdo cómo se llama la calle, pero la entrada que tenían abierta que va hacia el Zócalo, y pues sí, los carteles y muchas llorando y pero no, o sea, yo pensé que iban a pasar más cosas y por eso también nos quedamos ya hasta bastante tarde, todos calcinados y achicharrados. Yo todavía sigo súper roja, porque normalmente nos colgamos una cámara aquí también para grabar todo lo que pasa y también vamos, bueno, yo con el micrófono y Guy grabando, entonces pues sí, sí nos pusimos bloqueador, sí tomamos agua, pero no importó. Y luego también pues lo que muchas estaban enojadas era que les habían puesto las mismas vallas y barreras y bloqueos que pues normalmente se ponían en épocas de cuando había un hombre en la presidencia, pero pues esta vez también les tocó que la señora Sheinbaum hiciera lo mismo y pues sí, estaban gritando como Sheinbaum, no llegamos todas, llegaste tú, y pues muchas que decían fuera Sheinbaum, que yo creo que antes sí la apoyaron bastante por ser la primera mujer presidente. Pero pues ella, bien gracias, adentro del Palacio Nacional haciendo sus rituales indígenas, y pues quién sabe qué le están metiendo, qué tipo de vibras están saliendo y entrando por ahí, y fue su forma de conmemorar el 8M. Obviamente no hizo muy feliz a las que estaban o iban llegando afuera, y pues sí, obviamente nosotros no vimos esa parte, pero pues también medio ridícula, una vez más tratando de inyectar y impulsar todo esto de que los colonizadores y que cómo puede ser y que hay que apoyar a la cultura indígena, y estoy de acuerdo, pero no hacerlo, número 1, un foco central, o número 2, más grande de lo que debería de ser, o darle el enfoque erróneo, o usarlo como para colgarse una bandera o ponerse un puntito de ay, yo sí, o estrellita de ay, yo sí estoy ayudando. Y porque luego, como nos pasó en Vancouver, empiezan con los discursos de que esta tierra no es nuestra y que hay que hacer, hay que decir de quién fue la tierra anteriormente. O sea, ya nos veo haciendo el tipo de, allá les dicen land acknowledgements, o como conmemoración terrestre de la tierra, de quién es realmente, entonces diciéndole gracias a los aztecas y mixtecas y etcétera antes de cada evento. Entonces pues sí es importante, y sí es importante conservar las culturas, pues los pueblos originarios, digamos, pero no hacerlo nada más por propaganda y no hacerlo nada más para ponerte una estrellita, y pues se ve un poco claro que por eso lo sigue siendo, y el año de la mujer indígena y etcétera. Entonces Sheinbaum, ridícula. Y luego después, pues obviamente sacó a todas las mujeres que probablemente habían votado por ella para el día siguiente hacer su asamblea informativa, decirse a sí misma que pues le fue muy bien con Trump y que hizo todo muy bien, y que pues todos los que fueron ahí motivados, digamos, pues le aplaudieran, y luego hicieron un sonidero. Y pues sí hubo una controversia que les digo que yo, se me fue. Tenía algo de Infobae, pero no sé qué cargar. A ver, no me encanta usar Infobae, pero fue el único en donde encontré. ¿Por qué? Bueno, se enojó conmigo, pero al parecer también varios de los funcionarios de Morena también durante la ceremonia pues le dieron la espalda, dicen que se estaban tomando una selfie, entonces hay pues varias fisuras por ahí en el partido, también la idea de crear uno nuevo o algo diferente por parte de Sheinbaum. Se ve que no todo está súper bien en casa, por lo menos con Morena, y pues como estuve todo el día hoy tratando de terminar de editar el video de Blancanieves y peinando y viendo todo el video que habíamos sacado de la marcha, entonces no me dio muchísimo tiempo de enterarme súper bien de las noticias, más de lo que me tocó vivir en carne propia. Pero también estamos tratando de ver pues qué tipo de videos qué tipo de temas, qué tipo de formatos pegan. Entonces, si ven que hay pues cambios de la nada en el canal, estamos viendo qué sirve y qué no para ya de ahí seguirle, porque realmente en español, o sea, el canal dice que tiene 200 y tantos videos, pero en español hemos hecho como 30 y tantos o 40 desde que llegamos a México. Entonces pues también es hacer crecer ese catálogo y ver qué sí pega, qué no, también qué largo de video pega y qué no, etcétera. También ahorita estamos tratando con Rumble y viendo si eso va a funcionar o no. Una vez más, el link está allá abajo si quieren seguir viendo el en vivo en inglés con toda la parte de geopolítica y donde no tenemos que censurarnos. Entonces váyanse para allá. Ya ese canal de Rumble lo tenemos también casi desde que abrimos el de YouTube, nada más que pues nadie lo pela porque es muy difícil que la gente te encuentre en Rumble. Entonces por lo menos pues aquí lo pueden encontrar por allá abajo. Ambos videos, tanto en YouTube como el de Rumble, se van a quedar guardados y el link se va a quedar ahí. También sabemos que a YouTube no le encanta cuando pones links de Rumble o tampoco de X, entonces pues a ver qué le pasa a en vivo. Y pues todavía no hago 15 minutos, voy en 12, pero como que ya se me acabó de qué hablar. Vayan a ver el video de Blancanieves, por favor, si no lo han visto, compártanlo porque está chistoso. También una de las cosas que voy a estar tratando de hacer es, y ya llevo tratando de hacer desde hace rato, yo hablo con algunas groserías, profanidades en mi vida normal, pero también trabajé en una escuela, entonces me sé autocensurar y es lo que estoy tratando de hacer en los videos no en vivo, o sea, en los videos largos, para que los puedan compartir también, porque sí me llegaron comentarios en los primeros, como el de Emilia Pérez, de que decía muchas groserías, que no lo puedan compartir. Entonces, pues así tenemos varios formatos, varias versiones, varias versiones de cosas que les gustaría compartir o no, pero sí díganme de qué les interesaría que habláramos, qué temas les gustaría que tocáramos. También la idea es hacer algunos videos cortos y algunos más largos, como adentrando en temas como los que estaba haciendo antes, como el de diversidad, equidad e inclusión, la serie de feminismo, que tengo que terminar. Saqué uno también de tradwives versus feministas, nada más para el 8M, y porque quería ver qué pasaría si le hago como si fuera feminista y tradwife, porque yo creo que ambos lados están nada más postureando y básicamente son un espejo y ambos no se la creen realmente, porque las tradwives o las esposas tradicionales pues no van a andar todo el día en redes sociales tratando de verse lo mejor que puedan y ganando más likes y vistas y pues dinero que puedan. Van a estar realmente trabajando en casa. Entonces no sé si no lo voy a entender súper bien, pero la crítica era en contra de las que se hacen pasar por tradwives pero realmente no son, o que lo que más les interesa es ganar dinero de verse así o comportarse así o etcétera. Entonces, ahora sí ya se me van los 15 minutos. Siempre encuentro de qué hablar y de qué seguir debrayando, no se preocupen. Mañana voy a seguir, pues ya voy a quitar a esta señora porque me molesta, pero mañana sí vamos a tener las imágenes sobre la marcha, lo que pudimos capturar. Una vez más, no logramos hacer entrevistas porque nadie se nos quería acercar. Yo creo que la próxima vez sí le voy a poner peluca a Guy y lo voy a maquillar y voy a decir que pues ahora se identifica como mujer, a ver si sí dejan que entrevistemos por lo menos a algunas. Les quería hacer preguntas sobre qué quiere decir el feminismo para ustedes, qué quiere decir patriarcado, y ya de ahí ir pues tratando de ver cómo contestan a las siguientes preguntas. No debate y no en forma pues mala onda, nada más para ver si se la creen o no. Bueno, ya se me fue el tiempo. Hay un comentario que voy a leer rápido antes de irme a la sección de inglés. Y Maue Yoga and Wellness dice: sé tú misma, no te autocensures, de eso se trata. Aparte del encanto de tu contenido, es justo eso, el mensaje y la forma tan única de compartirlo. Muchas gracias. Sí, no me voy a censurar en términos de lo que digo y como contra qué me voy y qué me parece y qué no me parece, pero las groserías que a veces sí se me salen, como decir, no sé si lo puedo decir ahorita, pero como decir mamadas o chingar, etcétera, cosas así, pues sí quiero que lo puedan compartir con, pues ya sea, no sé, gente más adulta, gente más joven, gente que tenga sensibilidades, ya sea por religión o lo que sea. Entonces pues es bueno tener pues una mezcla de contenido, y entre más pues podamos tener mejor. Y luego Jessica Ramírez dice: saludos, no sé si quise ver todo más optimista, pero este año vi más comentarios en contra de la marcha por parte de mujeres que en años anteriores. Ojalá esto siga a la baja. Y sí vi muchas menos mujeres, en general se sintió mucho más chico, pero yo no había ido a una en muchísimo tiempo aquí en México, entonces no tengo punto de comparación de yo estar ahí presente, pero por lo menos en fotos y pues todas esas tomas de drones y etcétera, no se sentía esta vez como lo que he visto en redes sociales, por lo menos se sentía mucho más chica y les digo que los, ¿cómo les llaman? Los colectivos eran más chicos y pasaba uno y luego habían espacios y luego pasaba otro, entonces, no sé, y pues en cuanto llegaron al Zócalo, todas se derritieron en el piso y pues nada más andaban tomando picnic y aguas y cerveza y etcétera, entonces ya veremos los números, si sean reales o no los que reporten, pero les digo que se sintió mucho más chiquita que en otros años que he visto por lo menos, y sí hacía muchísimo calor. Llegamos también nosotros a derretirnos a la casa, pero bueno, y ahora sí ya me voy. Buenas noches, muchas gracias por estar por aquí si ya se van. Les recuerdo que va a ser tantito en YouTube y ya de ahí nos vamos a Rumble y hablaremos más a fondo de todos los temas, pero muchas gracias por todo el apoyo. Si no han visto el video de Blancanieves, vayan a verlo, no se les olvide darle like, suscribirse. Me choca decir eso porque no me gusta autopromocionarnos, pero bueno, se supone que hay que decirlo, entonces no se les olvide darle like y suscribirse si no se han suscrito y compartir videos y los en vivos. Muchísimas gracias por todo el apoyo y buenas noches.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay, so we're going to go over all the political headlines of the day, just the headlines, and then we'll do a more in-depth analysis over at Rumble so we can avoid any strikes or banning on YouTube. And then also today we're going to go over all the cultural headlines, and we'll probably dive into a few stories on YouTube before we migrate over. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's start with the first story of the day, and this was huge in Canadian news. Mark Carney, the new unelected Prime Minister of Canada, I believe he got 86% of the registered vote. That was 150,000 votes from the Liberal Party. They disqualified 2/3 of the vote. Next story we had.
Hold on, I spoke for a long time. After banning the elected president of Romania and ruling he can never run again, authorities are now using force to silence those who want to still help him.
Yeah, this was a huge story, and we'll go more in depth on Rumble. The next story was the Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey secured a historic $24 billion judgment against the Chinese Communist Party for unleashing the COVID-19. This is 6 times larger than any previous judgment in Missouri. This is a historical judgment. The next story we have?
The United States Secret Service personnel got rid of a person that was near the White House looking to cause harm.
And then we have China imposes 100% tariffs on selected Canadian imports. And this is turning into a trade war between Canada, China, and the United States.
Then Patrick Bet-David called out Pierre Poilievre. Patrick Bet-David is podcaster that I don't love, but whatever, for not doing alternative media and podcasts like many other people during campaigns have been doing lately, which has helped them a lot.
And Pierre Poilievre was the potential next Prime Minister of Canada. Okay, the next story we had was, we talked a little bit about it last week, but Gavin Newsom says he no longer supports trans athletes because it's unfair.
And Trump is considering criminal charges for USAID staff after uncovering bad things.
Okay, 26 member states of the European Union endorsed the EU $800 billion funding of a new military.
And Trump threatened massive sanctions on Russia for continued attacks on Ukraine, tells Moscow and Kyiv to get to the table right now to continue negotiations.
And that's it for the political stories. So now we're going to go into some cultural stories. We'll talk a little bit about them, and then we'll go over to Rumble to go in depth on all the political headlines we just covered.
Yes.
Okay, the first one was actually our thumbnail.
Yes, so LeBron James caught on a hot mic recounting heated incident with Stephen A. Smith to Richard Jefferson. Let me find it. Here it is.
And this was pretty interesting because at first I was like, what is he complaining at Stephen A. Smith? This was done courtside at a game, so this was very public. I felt like he should have kept this private, especially because the issue it was about, which was his son. His son Bronny James plays with him on the Lakers, and Stephen A. Smith had a few choice words saying he can't jump, and so LeBron Smith confronted him at
LeBron James.
LeBron James confronted Stephen A. Smith at courtside, and Stephen A. Smith talked a little bit about on its show, but that was neither the time nor the place. And I think LeBron James needs to let his son be his own man and stand up for himself if he wants to stand up for himself. What was also interesting, though, is Stephen A. Smith recently got a $100 million contract from ESPN, so he's slowly becoming a conservative.
Who is the one? Was it like a sports player that had a trans son daughter?
Oh, that was.
At least it's not that. At least his son is not doing that.
LeBron James used to play with him. That was Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade. Yeah. That guy. So
and
at least
it's because his wife is crazy.
Yeah, but so at least LeBron James' son is not on that path yet.
Okay. The next story we had was Gene Hackman's death. We talked a little bit about this, and
who is Gene Hackman?
Gene Hackman's a pretty famous actor. He's a little bit older now, so he was 93 at the time of his death. But the original when he passed away, the original reports said it was they all kind of took their own lives. But what ended up happening was actually a lot more interesting. So Gene Hackman has severe Alzheimer's. He can't remember a lot. And his wife was administering medications for him. So what happened was the wife went out for a walk with the dogs, came home, put the dogs in the cage. Then she passed away from a disease that's pretty common in LA, and it comes from rat urine, and it gets into your lungs, and it can cause you to pass away. This is becoming more and more common in LA. What happened after that, when she passed away in the bathroom, nobody administered Gene Hackman's medications to him, but he lived for a week. He was going on hikes. He didn't realize his dog and his wife weren't there, I guess. And a week later, he passed away in his doorway when coming back from a hike because he hadn't had anybody administer his medications for a week. Now,
so it's a really, really sad story.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is PETA, the organization PETA, was banning rat poison in LA because they want to protect the mountain lions. The mountain lions were eating the rats who ate the rat poison and were therefore dying. And PETA banned the rat poison. What's happening now, these rats are getting into people's houses. They're urinated inside of the walls, and people are getting this severe disease.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that, like, it's an incredibly tragic story. What actually happened once, because they were speculating if it might have been a gas leak, but I mean, the fact that it's a completely sad, horrible story, and PETA is basically to blame, kind of.
Oh yeah.
Is I mean, I hope something happens to them. But they also decided to do kind of the same thing in Vancouver. And I mean, we had giant rats, bigger than our dog, just roaming around, going into Costco and a lot of different stores. And right by where we lived close to the water by the end of our time in Vancouver. And it was just, we would drive by the side street and they would just go everywhere.
Everywhere in Vancouver is surrounded by water because it's on the peninsula, so the rat problem is severe. Anytime you live next to a water, whether it's a river or an ocean, you're going to have severe issues with rats. Yes. And now, I never understood how deadly they can be, but now we know.
Well, yeah, they're gross. They carry a lot of diseases. That's why people are so, like, biologically scared and disgusted by them.
Well, Dr. Drew was bringing up this issue for quite a long period of time, and we're saying they needed to bring back rat poison in LA. Nobody was listening to him, and now the death rates are starting to go up because of rat urine. Yeah. But let's go into the next story. The next story is probably going to be your story because it's Blake.
Well, you know way more about this lawsuit than I do. He's somehow more interested in the whole Blake Lively Justin Baldoni drama, but Blake Lively attends another Simple Favor South by Southwest premiere amid Justin Baldoni legal drama. So what happened? Because I don't know.
So yeah, this Blake Lively legal drama that's escalating with Justin Baldoni. She and Ryan Reynolds are getting the bad end of the stick here, and I think they should have settled a long time ago. They really should have never tried to steal the movie from Justin Baldoni. If you don't know what happened, they were using a clause in Baldoni's contract, so the rights to the movie would go back to the original writer, and it seems to be going awry now. But
So yes, I mean, it seems like this perfect couple. I always kind of liked Blake Lively just from Gossip Girl and Ryan Reynolds, because he's Ryan Reynolds. But yes, apparently they were trying to get more control over the movie. They were trying, and it seems that they do this quite a lot with other movies. They were trying to get like creative control, complete control, Blake Lively to do basically whatever she wants to do, which is sad for me because again, I always saw her kind of a Serena van der Woodsen, and now this image is crumbling. And the fact that she attended this premiere and like decided to show up, I don't know if it's gonna turn out well for her. I don't think it turned out well for her.
Well,
it says that, I mean, she tried to basically just scurry around.
Well, it's kind of funny that she's trying to scurry around a premiere, because when it was the premiere of It Ends With Us, they made Justin Baldoni watch it in the basement with other people from the movie. Well, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively were up top. It was somewhat despicable, and this is coming from somebody that really liked Ryan Reynolds before this, and to this day I still do not like Justin Baldoni at all.
Yes, the male feminist with
he's a male feminist, but I do have to admit,
ponytail.
in this particular situation, even though I like Ryan Reynolds and I don't like Justin Baldoni, Ryan Reynolds is in the wrong, and so is his wife. So.
And I mean, it'd be interesting because A Simple Favor, which was the movie, like the first movie, now it's another Simple Favor, from Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick, was interesting, but it was kind of weird. We watched it together. I don't think you remember it at all. We watched a movie where she ended up being like a bad person that went around and ended people's lives. But I'd be kind of interested to watch the second one just to see if it's as bad or worse. But yeah.
Then we had the Walt Disney Animation Studio staffers ratified their first union contract. So this has massive implications. A lot of the time when these union contracts get going, especially by Disney, you're going to see Disney diversify outside of the United States because they don't want to deal with the union. They'll still produce some works, but they'll go to Vancouver and more of their international studios just to avoid a lot of the union implications.
And I mean, the whole union thing with Disney and its animators goes back all the way back to when Walt basically first opened it. And with unions, they've always had an issue because they haven't always treated their animators great, but at the same time, by unionizing, they're making it way harder on the studio to create any kind of new or different content because they're setting up too many rules and too many things around what they're able and not able to do.
Yeah, and you have to think of the type of union they're going to be dealing with right now. This isn't your typical regular union. This is going to be a woke political activist union, especially because of the time frame the union must have been forming. It's just coming into creation now, but most of the traditional animators and the long-term animators that were at Walt Disney have either left or been fired, and you've gotten this young DEI crop of animators that really aren't very good, and it's reflected in the work. And now they're forming a union mainly because I'm guessing they want to protect their job because it's coming to light that there might not be the best animators.
Yeah, and it's also because, I mean, we saw it with the movie Wish, where I think it's called Wish. I don't even remember because I don't want to. But basically all the animation in that movie was horrible, and a lot of people came out to say, and it came out that it was because in the past few years they have been trying to get rid of the old white men, because even though they know how to do everything and they've basically invented a lot of the techniques that the new ones are using, the new ones are coming in a lot of the time because they look a certain way, but maybe they don't have the credentials, or they need to fill a quota, but they don't really look at how good of an animator they are. So it's also kind of not good for the animators that they're hiring in, because they're ending up producing terrible stuff, and then that will be also on their resumes and on their portfolios forever.
Well, I think that Wish was their 100th anniversary
yes,
movie as well.
That's what's so sad about it.
So like that needed to be a cornerstone piece of what they were making in the modern age to kind of bring them through the next 100 years. And a lot of people said that was the worst animated movie they had ever made.
And I guess maybe that will be a tell for what the next 100 years will look like for Disney.
Well, hopefully they're able to transition, and maybe Elon Musk will buy the company. There is talk. Or
No. Apple, I'd be a lot happier if Apple did.
I don't know. Apple's sticking with their DEI policies and stuff like that, so I'm not sure if I want Apple. Okay, let's go into the next story. It's a Netflix story.
So yeah, Netflix stock slides amidst analyst forecast of slowing subscriber growth, broader market turmoil over Trump tariffs.
Yeah, so I think subscriber growth everywhere is kind of
lagging.
They're really having trouble. And if you look at Disney specifically, I know this is about Netflix, but Disney has been fudging their numbers, and they were getting money from the USAID to buy subscriptions to pump up their stock value. So everybody's kind of hurting. The fact that it's reflecting in the numbers. It just shows Netflix is the least being transparent, or I hope they are.
Mm-hmm.
So Netflix of all the streaming services is the strongest. So.
And I mean, they did have some controversies with DEI a few years ago. They had protests because they wanted to include and then not include certain trans characters, but they also haven't really come out with like a big forceful statement like we've seen a lot of other companies do, even Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, Disney's trying to, switch over to a different acronym, not DEI, but Bridge, but still, I mean, at least they came out to acknowledge it. And Netflix still also has a lot of that kind of content, but their content pool is so large, and they also buy a lot of things like Emilia Perez, but other things as well that are produced by more independent studios. So, I mean, we might see better things coming out soon.
I also think in the streaming service business right now, you're going to see a consolidation of a lot of companies. So you're going to see bigger companies buy out smaller companies, maybe mergers and things like this. You've already seen this with Disney buying Hulu and Amazon really buying other smaller streaming services and things like this. And we can't forget about YouTube. YouTube is the biggest in the space. They run over 10%. They have well over 10% of the market share, which is far larger than any other streaming service. They're usually excluded from the numbers because they don't want the other streaming services to look so bad, so they put them on a different metric. But technically, they are still within the streaming service platforms.
And I also think, I mean, consumers, I'll put myself in there, are tired of having millions of subscriptions and different payments coming out of their accounts and having to, just if you want to watch one thing, you have to keep up with. So I've just basically stopped watching any traditional TV, even streaming TV, because it's impossible to keep up. So I just watch everything on YouTube.
Well, don't forget to cancel HBO Max.
Yes. Because we hired it to watch the Oscars, and now I have to cancel it.
Yeah, we were trying to watch the Oscars on streaming. The only place we can get it was HBO Max, so we signed up for the free trial. Now we got to cancel it.
Yes.
So maybe we'll watch some things tonight before we cancel it.
Yes.
Okay, the next story was TSMC, which is the major chip manufacturer in Taiwan, is building a manufacturing plant within the U.S. It's going to be over $100 billion investment. I think I covered this story before, but this is a huge manufacturing investment that's being brought over to the United States because of the tariff policies. This is a little bit more political, but I put it over here.
Sure.
And then the next story was the Utah story.
Yes, so Utah becomes the first state to pass legislation requiring app stores to verify ages. I mean, this came out a little bit out of the whole hub for to view bad things situation, that they wanted them to be able to verify ages so they didn't have children watching things they shouldn't be watching. But
yeah, and I'm always really concerned about age verification when it comes online, because you're really going to start encroaching on people's freedoms and their ability to remain anonymous and have real free speech online. So when they're asking for age verification, does that mean you're going to have to scan your ID in? Or you just click I'm 18, because if it's just you have to click you're 18, that's one thing. If you actually have to scan a digital ID or some form of an identification to gain access to the App Store, that's very dangerous. And if that ends up being the case, they're going to expand that to other online websites, I would guess.
Yes, so I guess what they would do is I'm trying to figure out the way they're going to be doing it. So
I'm very concerned about digital IDs, especially under the Trump administration. He kind of indicated that he wouldn't, but a lot of people are suspecting they're going to bring it in through digital IDs through protection of the borders and immigration policies, so it'll be accepted by the masses. I'm not for digital IDs, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. We got a couple more stories here. The test screening was conducted of Mission Impossible 8. Yes, we're on number 8 now. The runtime was over 3 hours. 2 of the screenings were not liked. 1 of the screening was liked. What does that mean? They had 3 different cuts of the movie. They were all very long. 1 of the cuts was well reviewed. I'm a little concerned about 3-hour movies. I mean, I don't really want to sit through a 3-hour movie. And the Avatar movie, they're talking about making it the next cut 3 to 4 hours. And James Cameron is really forgetting how to tell a good story. He's so focused on how good something looks.
Well, I'm also guessing if they're trying to also think about streaming services, so where people are able to pause it and play it whenever they want. I mean, I am weird, so I do kind of like the Mission Impossible movies just because completely takes you out of it. It's still sort of masculine, like a little bit masculine at least, bringing a little bit of, men can do the impossible.
It's kind of your cookie cutter action movie, and I don't want something like that.
And we don't see those anymore.
No.
I mean, that's
Top Gun, but Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Top Gun, yeah. I mean, I would watch even a 3-hour and a half Top Gun movie just because of the stunts and the fact that also on Mission Impossible they focus on stunts and what's his face? Tom Cruise wants to do everything himself and almost everything, and I mean that's still impressive and that's still kind of filmmaking, not just relying on all of it being CGI. So I mean, yes, 3 to 4 hours is, just make it a TV series at this point, but at the same time, at least make those kinds of movies that are more male focused a little bit and less wokeified.
And Tom Cruise did fairly well through that woke era. He seems to get all like really masculine
Maybe it's
movies.
a sign.
So he should transition into the new culture that's going to be here. He's getting really old, but man, he played it right during that woke era, not to kill his career.
Yeah, to end his career.
And the last story, why don't you read it out and we'll talk about it.
Hold on, let me find it.
It's about the Vatican.
The Vatican calls, where am I? The Vatican calls for Catholics to walk side by side with Muslims in this time of fasting, so Ramadan.
Well, and before we get into this, I will say I am checking up on the Pope every day, and he's
checking up on the Pope every day.
We do a lot of stories about the Pope.
No, I know, but you sounded like his child.
Well, it's something I constantly remind myself to see if there's any new updates, because he was on his deathbed last week.
It keeps going up and down and up and down. I guess
they said he had
with old people.
They said he had a calm night after a previous day with not too many issues, so maybe he's stabilizing, I'm hoping.
Thank you, Nurse Guy, for your update.
Okay, but anyway.
But the Vatican expressed its solidarity with Muslims participating in the Ramadan fast, noting that Catholics also fast and do penance during the season of Lent, and inviting greater dialogue and friendship between people of the 2 religions.
So a lot of people are actually outraged with this a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, because
understandably so.
They're happy keeping the religion separate, and then you're having a lot of, I would say, non-religious or atheist people really trying to push this one world religion together.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yes.
That was it for all of our of the cultural stories.
Our YouTube-friendly stories, let's just say.
All the political stories we read out earlier, we're going to migrate over to Rumble, which probably nobody's watching because it's our first day over there.
Yeah, no one.
But we're gonna go more in depth, and because we went the whole weekend and today, there are a lot of interesting political stories.
Yes.
So let's end it on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes. Let me see if I can do this. Let's see how this works out. The Rumble link is down below. I don't know if you can click it. I don't know if it works. Just copy and paste it if it doesn't work, because YouTube doesn't like those.
And the channel is Nat and the Guy on Rumble.
Yes. So good night. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube, and if you're watching it on the replay, thank you so much. And go watch the Snow White video. We'll go watch the Snow White movie for you and review it and tell you how it actually is. So, okay, I'm trying to run the stream on YouTube now. Thank you so much.
I'm the only person on Rumble, so.